Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books, and I've been covering everything going on with the wokeification of Disney and pop culture. And my God, Funko Pops are not doing so well. They've just recently announced that they've got to dump between $30 to $36 million worth of inventory. That's a lot of inventory. These are toys that are licensed toys that are based on what's now becoming more and more woke properties. Marvel's titles, the Star Wars titles, basically anything and everything pop culture Funko seems to have a license for. Supposedly it's over 1,000 licenses they hold. The problem is they license more and more properties, and these properties become more and more woke. There's less and less interest in them. There are other problems, and from my reading, and I want to go over a couple of articles with you with this, it looks like the business was terribly mismanaged in terms of inventory, that at some point they had a huge run, there was a big demand for the products, there was good distribution for the products, and then they overproduced thinking that that demand would never stop. But the problem is the demand, especially speculator demand, is always multiplied by real, genuine interest. We've seen this in comic book publishing time and time again. It's affected my publications in the past, but observing the industry, you become very, very familiar with what looks like a speculative bubble. This is like a worst of all scenarios situation where the company definitely overproduced. They mismanaged what the future demand should be. They also rely on licenses of properties that people are caring less and less about. If you know the recent Ant-Man and Quantumania movie, people were very disappointed with that movie. They don't love Marvel the same way they used to love Marvel. Then beyond that, the economy is doing poorly, so people are cutting back on spending on ridiculous items like Funko Pops. So if they don't love it, they're not going to buy it. And if they don't buy it, then they're going to have to do something with all of these things, because you have to physically pay to store all of this ridiculous excess merchandise, which they really never should have produced. Let's get into these articles. Before we do, please be sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate you guys. Okay, from Kotaku, over $30 million worth of Funkos are headed to the landfill. And let's get our numbers straight. It's not 30 million, it's going to be 30 to 36 million based on what the president said of the company. And when they say 30 to 36 million, he's not talking about wholesale value. He's talking about the direct cost to the company to produce that inventory. So what the wholesale value is at least 5 times the amount, because obviously they pay something to produce stuff and then they mark it up for resale. This is wholesale, probably 150 to $200 million worth of inventory. It's a massive amount of inventory. The company that makes Funko Pop's collectibles is in so much trouble, it's preparing to throw hundreds of thousands of its pop culture inspired figurines into the garbage. Funko revealed the plans in a recent earnings call filled with so much bad news, its stock price fell off a cliff the next day. Inventory at a year-end totaled $246.4 million, an increase of 48% compared to a year ago, the company wrote in a press release on Wednesday. This includes inventory that the company intends to eliminate in the first half of 2023 to reduce fulfillment costs by managing inventory levels to align with the operating capacity of our distribution center. This is expected to result in a write-down in the first half of 2023 of approximately $30 to $36 million. When they are talking about being able to manage the inventory levels to align with the operating capacity of their distribution center, what they mean to say in plain language is literally they can't even run their damn warehouse. Their computer programs were not set up properly when the warehouse opened. They didn't coordinate it properly. Their CFO was an idiot. She left in December. This is a tremendously mismanaged company. Funko's warehouses are overflowing with 5-inch chibi replicas of Machine Gun Kelly, Spider-Man, Pikachu, and every other vaguely famous cultural icon, and throwing them out will be cheaper than trying to sell them. During a call with investors, CEO Brian Mariotti said a new distribution center in Arizona was so full that the company had been bleeding cash renting shipping containers to hold all of the excess inventory. Mariotti arrived just last year amid an executive shakeup following increasingly bad earnings news. The stock price cratered last November when Funko slashed its financial outlook for the year and fell by another 25% this week as the company revealed it would also lay off 10% of its employees. This is Funko stock. It closed at $9.88. It's not doing well. And why is this company even at this point worth almost $500 million? I have no idea. They don't own intellectual property. They license it. They produce this merchandise based on it. And now they have to throw it away. So why people would buy the stock, I do not know. Part of what seems to be going on here is that supply chain shortages combined with extra income and time at home during the early pandemic years spurred a temporary run on Funko Pop sales. Now that the initial rush has subsided, the company has a ton of extra stock. At the same time, sales are dropping. It's also hard not to wonder if the entire bobblehead redo has hit peak saturation. The reason why things reach saturation, and this is a very interesting concept with supply and demand, when they had a run on their Pop figures, and I've seen their figures. Look, I'm not a fan of Funko Pops. They have a lot of 5-star ratings on their store. People seem to like their toys, although a lot of those look like they might be astroturfed and, people doing it on their site. These are their December releases, but some of the toys look fine enough. I like Chewbacca. Sure, you want to make a Chewbacca figure and sell it for $30. Okay, cool. When you have a run on something, if you meet the demand, if you supply the demand, you're going to at some point wind up with some massive saturation and then oversupply. And that's something in speculation, that's something in marketing that you have to think about. Just because people are buying what you're selling and they say that they want more of it, they may want more of it in the moment, but if you supply every fraction of the demand for whatever it is that you're selling, at some point people are going to say, okay, well, I'm satisfied. And then you're sitting there with extra stuff to produce. This happens as a manufacturer. I've produced a lot of things before. You find out that, okay, well, to produce the first 10,000 Darth Vader figures costs X dollars. To produce the next 10,000 costs half of X dollars. So you can get all this extra production very cheaply because you're in the production flow. You pay a lot for the first, you pay less for the second, and the average cost then goes down over time, and then the marginal cost, the cost for one extra item, becomes very cheap, which makes it look very profitable. But that is very mesmerizing and confusing, and it's not something you should really do without really calculating, well, look, we want to still be a hot item. We never want to be in the situation where we're throwing extra content into a landfill. We always want there to be more demand than there is supply. That is not something Funko was thinking about. Additionally, the idea that they can't even run their warehouse, there's no excuse for that. There was a new warehouse, there was new software. That is criminal. I mean, not literally criminal, but it's equivalently criminal to not be able to run your basic warehouse when you are at a business. Particularly, they're a public company. This isn't some private operation. This is something where they're doing significant revenues. They have serious people being paid serious amounts of money. To not be able to run their warehouse and their software means they actually probably couldn't fulfill orders that they actually had. This is an article that I saw in November, and I was going to do a video then, but it wasn't that interesting. But now it's kind of interesting, especially in light of them having to dump tens of millions of dollars worth of inventory into a landfill. Funko inventory up, chains canceling orders. When chains cancel orders, that's a big signal you guys are in serious trouble, because naturally they're producing for those orders. We are in a serious recession right now, even though it's not being called a recession for political reasons, and that becomes a big deal when you're making these wacky vinyl figures that people are losing more and more interest in the brands for. Funko reported sharply higher inventory with its mass chains delaying or canceling orders in its third quarter report and conference call, citing the broader economic climate. Funko's inventory at the end of the third quarter was $265.8 million, up 89% from $140.8 million at the end of third quarter 2021. Now, keep this in mind. When sales are going down, but your inventory is going up, what, 89%? That is not good, because the reason your inventory is going up is because your old inventory is not selling through the way you thought it was going to. Funko CFO Jennifer Fall Jung announced in the conference call that with the big jump in inventory, they might have to do a little discounting in the fourth quarter to manage it down. If I were a stockholder, and thank God I am not, I would be very interested in suing this Jennifer Fall, who seems like she's kind of messed up a lot of the company. The CFO is supposed to protect the finances of the company, chief financial officer, and to say that they might have to do a little discounting. Their discounting is this: no one will buy the merchandise for anything, even if they were to sell them to like dollar stores for 2 cents or 5 cents. That would destroy their market and completely ruin their business. They are already discounting these things. There are plenty of Funko items that are very low priced on Amazon right now. They're selling as much as they can, but in the meantime, they so overproduce, the stuff has to be thrown away. Funko is also having problems with its new consolidated fulfillment center, which it opened in the second quarter. The warehouse management software it expected to have available to manage its new warehouse was not installed by the time the warehouse opened, and its new enterprise resource planning software will not be installed until 2023. months after they took on inventory, massive inventory they couldn't control. The company is using manual methods to manage its new warehouse, and supporting the complex upgrades to our core infrastructure has resulted in higher than expected short-term operating expenses and increased margin pressure, CEO Andrew Perlmutter said in a conference call. He has since been kicked out, this Andrew Perlmutter. They actually said here they had $265 million worth of inventory on hand. $250 million plus inventory in these ridiculous Funko Pops. But they had no computer system in place to manage the software. On top of the fact that people are losing interest in the Star Wars brands, they're losing interest in the Marvel brands, they're losing interest in all the brands that are going woke, and almost all mainstream brands are going woke. Back in the day, there was $1 billion market for Funko Pops, the cheap plastic figurines that can sell for thousands of dollars. So there was a speculator market. They oversaturated the speculator market. Yes, there were $100,000 Funko Pops that were sold that were exclusive products. But listen to this ridiculous CEO. This is exactly how you don't do this. While the typical price for standard vinyl pops range from $10 to $20, prices are ratcheted up on the resale market. Funko Pops based on the character Alex the Large from 1971 cult film Clockwork Orange typically go for upwards of $25,000, while Disney's Dumbo elephant fetches $7,000. In May, a special edition Willy Wonka pop sold for $100,000, the most lucrative pop sale yet. After the private sale, Chavez started seeing forgeries of the figurines. That's when you see a market becoming a serious collectible, when people start trying to make fakes, he said. Funko's figurines have garnered parallels to Beanie Babies, the plush animal toys which caused the collecting craze in the 1990s. However, unlike the eventual crash of Beanie Babies, Chavez believes Funko Pops aren't a fad but a true collectible. Well, apparently we know they are not. The backing of third-party companies is a signifier that Funko Pops are here to stay, said Chavez, pointing to Professional Sports Authentication, a US-based grading company which already authenticates Funko Pops and will soon begin grading the quality of the vinyl figurines. While the most valuable Pops typically stem from limited edition releases, Perlmutter claims the company does not purposefully manufacture scarcity. It's not for secondary value purposes, said the Funko head. When we make a limited item, it's usually because we know the audience isn't that great. This is where they went El Stupido. Yes, it's important. If you think that people are customers that are considering these for the secondary market, they're buying them as investments, they think they're collectibles, and they play around. I've seen some of this with their promotion where they are collectibles, but they're not collectibles. If people think they're collectibles, you need to think about the scarcity of what you're producing. Because if you don't, you wind up exactly with this. $30 million of inventory getting thrown into a landfill for destruction because you don't match supply and demand. You just overproduce and oversupply until demand is completely destroyed and nobody is interested in buying these crazy things. I don't know if you're interested in Pops or not. I think they're kind of cute, but I can't see building an industry based on them. They're basically bobbleheads. What's so special about these things? Apparently they're not that special, or they wouldn't have to dump them in a landfill. But let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Do you think that with all of their licenses going woke, they're going to have a hard time selling more and more merchandise based on woke licenses? It seems like they will. I'd love to know what you have to say about this. Please let me know in the comments below. Also, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications and give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.